Today, Nathalie whips up an elegant and easy buffet supper. Patti's baked crab appetizer combines flavor from the sea with crunch from a cheesy crust. The star of the table is cold fillet of beef with green peppercorn sauce. Jim Landon's baked asparagus, garlic-rosemary red potatoes, and Choco-Mint Boule de Neige rounds out the meal.
Hello, I'm Nathalie Dupree, and I want to show you the perfect entertaining meal for a really busy day when you still have to come up with something elegant. And almost all of this can be done in advance, so that's one real trick. This particular dish, which is a cold tenderloin or cold fillet of beef served with a green peppercorn sauce, is perfect for a buffet or luncheon. You can cook it several days ahead of time, you can serve it chilled or at room temperature, or you can warm it up. So for all of those reasons, a tenderloin of beef is perfect. I have to tell you a little personal note. I'm recently married, and just a few days ago, my husband had won a top book award, the Robert Kennedy Award, and afterwards we went to Ethel Kennedy, Mrs. Kennedy's house for dinner, and I was very excited. For me, that was real high cotton. And of course, I thought, what on earth is she going to serve? Now, we were at an event for a very long time. We went back for a late supper. Her home was a ways from where the event was, so not everybody was arriving on time. We were a little late because my husband was delayed with talking to press and different people that were there. This was all for a book he had written, I might have to add. And so I was very curious about what she would serve that would hold, and very interested in that what she chose to serve was beef tenderloin. It's a kind of a perfect thing for when you don't know who your guests are, for when you have a lot of people, for when you don't know if you're going to be able to get it heated up or not heated up. Of course, I mean, she had people helping her, particularly since she was walking in from this other event. But still, if you had to do it all yourself, you can do it. Now, here's the thing. You trim your beef tenderloin. Many people just go ahead and cook it with what's called the chain on. It's this little sidebar piece here. I like to take it off, and many times the butchers have removed this for you. If you have this little chain and you want to, it makes a terrific, what I call cook's treat. You can roll it all up, scrape all that membrane and fat off, and just roll it up, trimmed, and it kind of is a special little steak for two. I like it very much. And go ahead and get any excess of this trimmed off. Now, this has been partially trimmed, and what I want to stress to you is that sometimes when you buy a tenderloin, it will have an enormous amount of fat on it. Now, you are not getting any better or worse of a deal if you get that tenderloin with the fat, no matter how you figure it. As expensive as this meat seems when you buy it, by the time you've divided it up and served it, and you can serve, say, 8 to 10 people, or if you're having a party with a lot of people, stand-up kind of a party, you can slice it very thin, and I have gotten 40 to 50 slices on it. So that turns out to make it a very economical dish. And of course, as you can see, you're cutting off all the fat here too. But anyway, if you get one that has all the fat on it, don't worry about it. Because it comes right off, and you're going to pay for it one way or the other. It's not as if the one that you got had more fat than the one that was in another store that didn't have the fat on it, or this one. So don't worry. Now let me go ahead and just cut this last piece off. I don't want to spend too much time doing this. You might trim it just a little bit more and get rid of this skin, this membrane right there. But go ahead and pat on your oil. And then just lightly salt and pepper it. And you know, some people were sort of evenly divided. Some people like to salt and pepper it, and some people don't. Some people say it pulls out the moisture, and some don't. So just do what you prefer. I think it gives it a little more flavor. Now, place it in a shallow baking dish, which I've got right here, and tuck the tail underneath it. And that gives it you a uniform sized piece. If you had a longer pan, and you wanted to cook it stretched out like that, this would be very well done, and this would be much more rare. So sometimes if you know you've got somebody coming that wants to have all of their meat well done always, then you can give them that piece that's well done, and then you can save the rare for yourself. Now put it in the oven. I use a very hot oven and bake it at 500 degrees until a meat thermometer registers 140 degrees for rare. That's about 30 minutes, but you're going to have to check it, because when you get your oven that hot, sometimes it's not reliable because you don't cook there a lot and you haven't checked the temperature there a lot. Now let it cool completely. Let me get this out of the way. And then slice it. And it slices very easily. It slices like butter. You know, it just goes right on through. I don't think you need to see me do it. Now this looks like an eye of round, but an eye of round is a flavorful piece of meat, but it's tougher, so don't get them confused. This is the fillet or tenderloin. And I just want to show you that I put it into a container that goes into the refrigerator, and I just leave it there until I'm ready for it, so it's all done ahead of time. And I'm just going to move it right now over to my platter. And you want to arrange it in the way that it was sliced, because those slices just go one right over the other. You might have a little larger platter than what I've got here. My judgment wasn't good. Now, you know, when you are having a party, you really should pick out your platter ahead of time. This is a beautiful Royal Dalton one, isn't it lovely? And you should go ahead and pick it out ahead of time and mark it on the bottom with the name of the dish that you want to go into it, so that if somebody's with you helping you, they can, or even your best friend, they can look at the bottom of the platter and be sure that they've got it on the right dish. Now, meanwhile, grate a lemon peel. I'm going to show you that later. Drain some capers and some green peppercorns, and in a food processor, and I think I've got the capers in here with chopped parsley, chopped basil, some chopped sorrel, some gherkin pickles. Right there, that little tip should have come off. Gherkin pickles, capers, anchovy fillets, some green onions. Let's see, they're right here. Some peeled garlic cloves. Can you see how good this is going to be? Some lemon juice, lemon peel. I think that's in there. Dijon mustard. There, it's right in there. I hope you can see it. And the green peppercorns, which are right here. And green peppercorns are usually packed in some sort of a brine, and they're what they sound like they are. They're green peppercorns, but they're fresh. They're also dried green peppercorns. And you puree this whole thing until it's smooth. Oop, let me see if it's on. Well, it's not going to work. Let me see what happened. I guess I've got it on wrong. There it is. Can you hear the click? That's one of the things with these new versions of the food processors. This has a little piece right here that pushes down on the piece that starts the machine. So, my first mistake, obviously. Now you puree it until it's smooth. I want to get away from that machine so you can hear me. And then add your olive oil in a slow stream. And if I had enough time, I could put it right into this feed tube that has a little hole in it, and it would just feed it in slowly, so I could walk away and leave it. In fact, I'll show you that. So you see, that's just going to drip down through that little tube until it's smooth. So then I can be doing something else. And here it is, all done. I left something out. My first mistake. Do you see that gooping down in there? And there it is, thick and creamy, and serve it with the cold beef. But you know, you can serve this on cold salmon or over summer-ripe tomatoes, which is so lush, for a very unusual salad. So you can use the leftovers or excess for any other number of things. Now, Jim Landon's baked asparagus. This is a very different, crazy, wonderful recipe. My friend Jim Landon was a student of mine, and he told me about this recipe, and I really couldn't believe it. It doesn't require any last-minute preparation. As much as I love asparagus, one of the things that happens with asparagus frequently is that you think, oh, well, it won't take me but 5 minutes, and then you save it to cook at the last minute. You don't want to do that when you're entertaining, although you can always cook your asparagus ahead of time, and I usually do. This is a fancy asparagus peeler. I really love it. You have to adjust the little end here to get it the way you want to, but once you've done that, oop, it's perfect. Only that I was a little overzealous because you were watching me. Or you can go like this with the potato peeler. Well, that didn't work too well either. I'm not shining as a asparagus peeler. And that's just because you don't want your asparagus to be too tough. Or you can just cut off the ends, snap them, or cut them. I like cutting them because I find they don't really snap exactly where I think they're at the toughest. Now, just take them, spread them on some aluminum foil. And these are not cooked, they're just washed. But you only want them to be 2 or 3 spears high. So let's get them all across there. If they're thin, you might get them a little thicker, than 2 or 3 spears high. Do that. And then you dot them with butter. Season them to taste with salt and pepper. And cover them tightly with more foil and seal the package. Now bake the whole thing in the oven at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes, more or less. A few minutes more won't hurt anything. And then serve it hot or at room temperature. You're just going to love it, and you can refrigerate this whole thing.
To receive a free copy of today's recipes, send a stamped, self-addressed business-size envelope to Meat Board Test Kitchens, 444 North Michigan Avenue, Department ND, Busy 206, Chicago, Illinois, 60611.
Hi, I'm Hattie Purnell-Burson, Public Relations Manager for Royal Dalton, USA, and I'm here today to tell you about your wonderful buffet setting. One of the things to keep in mind is when you're planning your Sunday brunch and you've invited more friends over than you have china for, is to pull out more than one pattern and make it a festive occasion. Now your Sunday brunch can be anything from a formal setting to an outside barbecue. And you're saying, why use china? Because it is a special occasion. It's a gathering of family and friends, and you like to make it special, no matter whether you're serving filet mignon or you're barbecuing on your gas grill. One of the things that we have set here today are 2 different settings, patterns to show you, heather and Floridor green, because when you're planning a buffet, quite often you may only have 12 5-piece plate settings of one pattern, and you've invited 24 people to a cookout. So you may quite easily feel that you don't want to bring out a second pattern because that's not what Emily Post said that you should do. But that's not the way it's done. If you have china and you have a wonderful setting, this makes it very festive, as you can see from the table. You pull out your dinner plates and your salad plates and your cups and saucers and your serving pieces. Use your platters, not just for a roast, but for breads, for an antipasta, for a salad, even a fruit salad. You have bowls that you can use for wonderful items, whether it be sorbet or it can be fresh fruit. So keep in mind when you're doing a buffet with your china that you use the pieces for other things than what their normal use would be. Another example of that is here we have 2 teapots, and currently we have nothing in them, but wouldn't this be a lovely vase for your centerpiece, which ties into how your china looks on your table? You lay all your pieces out, everything from your serving pieces with what you're going to serve in each item to your flatware, so that your guests can serve themselves. They come in and they pick up their dinner plate and they work through the food and select the items that they like. Because you have it served in your china, everything looks wonderful and tastes wonderful. And again, the ease of all this, after you've served 24 people on your china, is that you can take this all and put it in the dishwasher. Now, a lot of hosts or hostesses will say, I'm a little leery of doing something like that. But we like to stress that with bone china, that it's perfectly safe to put it in the dishwasher. Royal Dalton has been in the dinnerware business for over 250 years and make over 200 different dinnerware patterns. Of all those patterns that are made, they're all safe to go in the dishwasher. Now, whether you stack them separately and you save it from going through the drying cycle and you air dry it, or you run it through the drying cycle, your china will be as lovely today as it will be 10 years from now when you use it in the dishwasher. So you can clean up very easily and put it all away. Now, one of the things in terms of storing your china, because you have so much of it, is to keep in mind that when you're storing your dinner plates, another good thing is that sometimes you buy those quilted bags to store them in, that doesn't make your china accessible. It doesn't make it easy to use. If you wanted to serve takeout Chinese, if you wanted to serve burgers on it, you couldn't really get to it. So keep it placed in your cupboards or in your cabinet or in your china closet, and you can use coffee filters or paper towels in between your dinner plates. Sometimes you'll find on the bottom of your dinner plate or your serving pieces there's a little rough edge. That edge is how the piece sits in the kiln when it's going through in the curing process. So just keep that in mind. You can put a paper towel or a coffee filter in between, keep it stacked neatly so that it's right there when you need it, whether it's for a buffet, whether it's for a small get-together of friends, and you're just using your salad plates. That's another point, that you don't always use all 5 pieces of your place setting. China is a wonderful thing to have. It makes entertaining fun, it makes it easy, and it makes it enjoyable. One of the key things to remember, it makes it a memorable occasion. So no matter what you're serving, buffet to barbecue, remember, your china can be your answer.
For nearly a century, Le Creuset's colorful French cookware has been a favorite in kitchens around the world. From its bold finishes and uncompromised quality to its easy-to-clean materials, the brand's range of iconic products are as easy to use as they are to love.
Scott's baked crab appetizer, and it'll serve 4 to 6 if you're serving portions, or you can serve it as a main course for a luncheon, something like that, or you can even serve it as something to be dipped up with these, just if you have a crowd. Pick over some nice lump back fin crab meat, just to be sure there's no cartilage in it, and then just, it's very simple. Mix together the crab, the horseradish, some drained capers, grated lemon peel. I hoped I was going to have time to show you that, but I may not. Worcestershire sauce, Tabasco sauce, lemon juice, a little mixed egg. Always crack it separately and whisk it, and then add it. I think I added my lemon juice. Worcestershire's hugging the cup there. Egg, some grated sharp cheddar cheese, and some mayonnaise. Just mix all of that together and then put it into your buttered dish. I use a buttered pie dish. And then sometimes you can find those little silver holders to make them look pretty fancy, or you can use a fancier baking dish. Pour it into your baking dish, and you can refrigerate it at this point if you need to several hours before you want to bake it. You can also make individual servings by just dividing it into buttered dishes or something like that. And cut the baking time about 10 minutes to about 10 to 15 minutes if you're doing it. Then you top it with some more cheddar cheese and bake it at 350 degrees until the mixture bubbles. And it takes about 20 to 25 minutes. It's really lovely. Right here you can see it. If you want to, you can run it under the broiler for about 2 minutes, being sure that whatever dish that you're using is can go under a broiler. Just be careful. You don't want something that will crack. And then to brown the top under the broiler, it makes it a little prettier. And serve it with crackers, or what I have there is some rusks or pita toasts. Now, chocolate boule de neige, which is a wonderful, wonderful dish. And it can also be made ahead. This one can be frozen. Boule de neige means a ball of snow, and it's very easy dessert, but everybody just loves it. Now, the first thing you want to do is to line a 5-quart oven-proof bowl, and I have run out of bowls, but I'll just use this one, with a double layer of foil, and that's so that you can remove it easier later. And then melt a 10-ounce package of chocolate mint morsels. You can use plain chocolate if you don't like chocolate mint, but I like the chocolate mint. With a half of a cup of water and 1 cup of sugar over low heat, or in the microwave. What does it matter? Cool it slightly. Pour it into a mixer bowl. You just want to get it there with the butter. It's a cup of room temperature butter right in there. And I've already beaten that up a little bit just for time because I saw that I was running a little over. I always joke and I say this is not fattening because there's no flour in it, and everybody says, yeah, right. I could eat this every night. It's really one of my addictions. Now, you know, I didn't used to be a chocoholic, but I am now. Now you add your 4 eggs, one by one, and you really need to mix them up a little bit first, and then just eyeball it. Beat it well after each addition. Trying to get away from here so that you can hear me. And then beat in a tablespoon of vanilla. And if you want to bump up that mint taste, a half a teaspoon of peppermint extract. And just let that all beat together. Lots of times I have done that in the microwave, and it works out just fine. And pour the mixture. Save this lovely chocolate for yourself for later. Oh, I see I have some chocolate chips there for you to see how to do it. I'll just combine them all so that you can actually see what goes into that. It helps you remember the recipe a little bit. That way you won't have to buy the book. So, and you've got your foil in the bowl, as I said to you earlier. Let me put that out of the way. Of course, if you had children, you wouldn't have to worry about that. That would be just terrific. They would clean out the pan right there. And then bake it at 350 degrees until a thick crust has formed on the top. That's about an hour. And then remove it from the oven and let it cool. And you can see that this is collapsed, and that's all right. And you can cover this tightly and refrigerate it until it's solid. It takes maybe 2 to 3 hours or overnight. And I just want you to see why you need that double layer of foil. And you just pull it all off. Now look, this is starting to crack, and part of it's because it's over the counter edge there. But if this starts to crack, why it doesn't, you just don't worry. You just push it right back together again, just like that. And let me just move this off of the heat there for a second. And take your whipping cream that's been already whipped, and I'm going to hope that I have time to talk to you more about that, but you always use really cold cream to whip it. I do a little, don't do that. I just want to test to see if it's whipped enough. It's been sitting for a while. And the way that you pipe is just to push and release, 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 all over here. If you want to practice piping, this is a pretty little star tip, but if you want to practice piping, you can do lots of different things with that. You can ribbon it like that or push and release like this and make it longer. If you want to practice piping whipping cream, get yourself some mashed potatoes and put them in a piping bag, like the dried mashed potatoes, and make them up, and then just practice piping, and it'll be much better. You whip your cream with about a cup of heavy cream. You need at least that much, and a couple of tablespoons of sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla. And you whip it until it's very stiff. And I prefer heavy whipping cream or heavy cream rather than just whipping cream. If you don't have a piping bag, you can go ahead and get a plastic bag and just cut off the edge and then just drop your tip in there. This is a little smaller than the one that I use. And do it that way. If you're afraid, oops, that was a little too much of a cut. If you want to whip your cream ahead of time, put it into, whip it, and then put it into a strainer, and the excess liquid will drop right off, and just leave it in that strainer or the cheesecloth until you're ready for it. And fortunately, for instance, that one didn't weep. Otherwise, it might weep if you do it. Now, here's the finished one over here. And what I've got for you is some chocolate shards. It's the same thing. You just melt some straight butter in this case, some straight chocolate in this case, and spread it on a piece of aluminum foil. Here's something to spread it with. Spread it with spread it on aluminum foil, or on what I've got right here is wax paper, and you can run it in the freezer. This is better done with chips, chocolate mint chips or chocolate chips. And you might have guessed that I have seen this at a fancy restaurant at the Four Seasons, and this is my home version of it. Just freeze that flat on a tray, and then when you're ready for it, you can just break off these shards. Now these shards just by themselves are a very luscious little treat of a dessert. And then you just go all the way around. And you can just serve these chocolate shards with coffee sometime if you want to. I make a whole bunch ahead and I keep them in the freezer container, in the refrigerator or in the freezer. They last a long time, and because those chips are emulsified, they kind of have a nice little gloss. Very quickly, have about 15 seconds. These are garlic-rosemary red potatoes. They're peeled. You just peel and chop some garlic, you chop some rosemary, you chop some parsley, and you place it all with some small, you boil your potatoes, bring them to the boil, simmer them until they're tender, about 20 minutes, drain them, and then cut them into chunks. And you can refrigerate them. And then when you're ready, you heat your butter and oil until it's singing, add your potatoes, and cook them, tossing occasionally. That just reheats them. You can always reheat potatoes. And then you add your garlic and cook them a couple minutes more. And then you add your parsley and your rosemary, cook them a minute longer, and season them to taste. The trick is to know that you can cook potatoes ahead of time and then reheat them just for a second as you need it. And of course you could also do the whole thing ahead of time and reheat it in the microwave.
To receive a free copy of today's recipes, send a stamped, self-addressed business-size envelope to Meat Board Test Kitchens, 444 North Michigan Avenue, Department ND, Busy 206, Chicago, Illinois, 60611. Your buffet table will shine with Nathalie's buffet of Patti's baked crab appetizer, cold fillet of beef with green peppercorn sauce, Jim Landon's baked asparagus, garlic rosemary red potatoes, and Choco-Mint Boule de Neige.